In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a team that can scale your funding company past 100K a month. I've helped multiple students go from doing everything solo at 5 to 20K per month to running full teams generating anywhere from 50 to 150K per month. And the difference between the ones who successfully scaled and the ones who burn cash on bad hires comes down to hiring the right roles at the right time with the right compensation structure. So in this video, I'm going to break down the complete team building blueprint from your first hire all the way to a fully staffed operation doing 6 figures per month. I'll cover what roles you actually need, when to hire them based on your revenue, how much to pay them, and how to train them so they actually generate return on investment instead of draining your bank account. This is going to be detailed, so if you're serious about scaling past 50K a month and building a real business instead of staying stuck as a solo entrepreneur, watch this all the way through and take notes. Let's get it. Rule number 1 of team building, right? This is going to be very, very important before we get deep dive into this presentation. You don't hire to grow. You hire to remove a constraint, right? I want to make sure that's very, very clear. A lot of us have a misconception when it comes to hiring. We think we want to scale and we just hire random people because we don't want to do certain things in our business, right? And we think that's the way to scale is just by hiring people. And that's actually the wrong way to look at it, right? You want to hire to remove a constraint. What is a constraint? It's a problem in your business that's stopping it from growing. So once you identify a problem, then you want to allocate resources to that problem, right? That's the true job of a CEO, to identify problems that stop the business from growing and allocate resources to fix that problem and continue to grow the business, right? So just want to be very, very transparent. In simple terms, if you suck at sales or you're getting too many book calls and you cannot take all the sales calls, then that justifies hiring a sales rep, right, to fix that problem. If you don't know the constraint, hiring makes the business worse, not better. That's going to be very, very important, right? Like I mentioned before, if you don't know what's stopping your business from growing, it's just like shooting in the dark. You don't know what you're hitting, right? You don't know what the goal is. And what happens is a lot of times you end up hiring the wrong people or people that are not going to help move the business forward, right? And then last but not least, most people hire because they're either tired, overwhelmed, or they feel busy, right? These are not signs that you want to look at or indicators you want to look at when it comes to hiring, right? When it comes to hiring, you want to avoid these things. These are some huge misconceptions inside of the space, and we're going to break down when you should actually be hiring. Whoa, quick break. If you've been thinking about starting your own business funding company, this is for you. I host a free live workshop where I walk you through the exact system I've used to fund over $40 million to small and medium-sized businesses. And my students, they're turning this into a 5, even 6-figure a month business. If you want to learn step-by-step how to do it too, click the link below and register for my free funding workshops. Seats fill up fast, so grab yours now. I'll see you live. So why do most people hire too early, right? Like we talked about on the last slide, tired, overwhelmed. They feel busy, but not really busy. They actually can handle more. Or number 4, they want to automate or scale the business, right? Understand that sometimes when you automate too much and you lose that human touch, especially in the funding space, right? You actually can decrease productivity, right? Or everybody has a scale word in their mind. I want to scale, but everybody's not ready for scale, right? Scale will come to you. You don't come to it. You will know when it's time to scale a business once you have a proven concept of the business, right? And one of the biggest things I want to leave on this right here is hire based on data, not emotions, right? A lot of us, we think that we're doing enough and we want to quickly remove ourselves from the business, but we don't understand if we don't have a solid foundation, you taking responsibilities and putting into somebody else's hands that may not care about the business as much as you can be a recipe for disaster. So hire based on data, not just because you're feeling overwhelmed at the moment, right? Data will show you who to hire, when to hire, and going from there, right? As we continue on, there are only really in the funding business specifically 3 constraints, right? Just want to make it very, very simple. Like I talked about before, constraints are basically problems that stop the business from growing. 3 constraints in the funding business will be marketing, right? Being able to generate leads, sales, being able to close leads, like close deals, right? And fulfillment, being able to fund, right? That's more so on the traditional credit card stacking route, but being able to fund clients as you get them onboarded. Those are the 3 main constraints in the business. Hiring only makes sense when one of these is proven and another is capped. What does that mean? You don't just want to start a business and automatically start hiring people to do these things for you. You want to make sure that you do these things yourself. And once you start to see caps in different parts of the business, then you want to allocate resources and hire people to them, right? And we're going to go deep dive into when to hire, roles to hire, how to hire, platforms, all that stuff a little bit later. Moving on. When are you actually ready to hire? This is going to be a very, 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 very important question, right? You hire based off of these things. You hire once revenue is consistent in your business for at least 3 to 4 months, right? That basically means you need to develop a proof of concept. A lot of people just want to jump and hire people, and they don't even know what they're doing in their business. They don't even know how to do certain things in their business. And it doesn't make sense, because as the leader of your company, as the CEO, as the founder, you should be able to understand everything in your business and then be able to hire out. Why is that important? If you've done the role, it makes it easier during interviews to figure out who is going to be the best person for your business. When you're interviewing people, you know you're hiring the right person when they can tell you something about that role that you didn't know. Why? Because if you're doing the role, you know what it takes, you know what you're doing. But if you are interviewing somebody that tells you something that you did not know, that's going to be the right person to hire. Moving on, the next thing is the same bottleneck shows up every single week, right? Let's say that you're great at marketing, you're getting a bunch of leads, but you're a one-man team. You're closing all the deals yourself. If because you're always on sales calls, you're not able to focus on fulfillment, building funding sequences, funding clients, different things like that, that is something that you need to actually allocate resources to. Maybe finding another sales rep to handle all those sales calls so you can focus on fulfillment, right? And last but not least, the bottleneck is directly costing you money, right? So if you get too swamped with calls that you cannot take any more book calls and you cannot continue to increase revenue in the business, that's when you know it's time to hire and build a team so that you can continue to allow the business to grow and generate more revenue. So moving on, here's some examples, right? Some good examples of when you know you should grow and what positions you should be looking for, right? So first and foremost, if you're generating little to no leads, you have a marketing problem, right? First and foremost, I personally would recommend trying to figure it out yourself. But if you need a media buyer or something like that, boom, you have a marketing problem. Number two, if leads are sitting for hours, let's say that you have no issue at getting leads at all, but there's no touch points. You don't have anybody contacting them in, let's say, a short amount of time, under 5 minutes. They're just sitting there. Then you probably have a setter problem, right? When people opt in, nobody's contacting them. You have a setter problem. Somebody that needs to contact and qualify them, right? Number three, calls booked but no closes. That will be a sales problem, right? You need to get better sales reps around you when it comes down to it to close more deals. And then last but not least, deals are closed, but little to no approvals on the fulfillment side. Let's say you close somebody at 10% commission, and this is for traditional funding, and you onboard them, and you end up consistently getting no results for your clients that you're trying to fund. That can be a fulfillment problem, right? So just want to make sure that is clear. Here are some examples. So why you want to prove your business model first is going to be very, very important. Like I mentioned before, you do not want to hire before you know how to run your own business. It is a recipe for disaster. You do not hire people to fix problems or do things that you have not done in your business. The better the CEO you are, the easier it is to hire A players in your business. You can pay anybody, right? But we don't want to pay anybody. We want to pay the right people to help grow the business. So if you can't answer and tell your employees what is a qualified lead, what do they say when certain objections or things come about, right? What's the next step in the process, whether that's fulfilling, knowing what banks are different things to go to, or that can be marketing or even sales itself, right? And what's a red flag, and identifying those early and getting management involved, right? And when do we need to say no? That's the biggest problem, right? All money is not good money. Sometimes working with the wrong clients, working with the wrong leads can just cause disaster in your business. So understanding, identifying when to say no. These are all things that you need to be able to answer and show someone how to do this strategically before you even decide on hiring, right? So you want to have a proven business model first. You cannot scale what you do not know works. And then you want to document the process before hiring, right? So one thing that I screwed up on very early in my business was I was really, really good at marketing. I'm getting leads, and I just started to feel very, very overwhelmed. I had more leads than I had time to contact them. And I was just quick and stressed and just hire anybody. But when that happened,
I didn't have any type of SOPs, any documentation, anything to give them after hiring them. So it was like, I'm just training as I'm going. And it was a headache, right? And I don't want you guys to make the same mistake. So you want to get good at documenting the process before hiring, right? So having SOPs, using AI like Cody AI, ChatGPT to write down the process and systems in your business. If you're doing things all the time in your business, take the time to use Loom or screen record your processes, put into a Google Drive or a database, so that when you hire somebody, not only can you teach them and train them, but now they have recordings going over exactly what you're teaching, right? So a couple of things you want to document is like your lead intake process, your onboarding process, and speed to lead, right? You need to have all setters, all openers contacting new leads every under 5 minutes, right? In 3 to 5 minutes. Give you guys an example. If somebody goes to your website and they opt in, they are a qualified lead, somebody needs to call them within 3 to 5 minutes to qualify them again and also see how we can help them, right? Understanding qualification rules. Obviously, we have traditional and alternative funding, right? So we want to make sure that they're qualified and understanding which funding product they're qualified for. Also, the call structure, how you handle a 0% interest credit card stacking funding call is going to be really different from how you handle an alternative lending funding call. So understanding how that sales call should go. Fulfillment checklist, understanding what docs actually you need from the client, having contracts in place and everything that matters when it comes to the fulfillment side, updating clients, how you should update clients, the cadence of updating clients, and then last but not least, which is the most important, and this more so applies to the traditional funding, your commission collection. Like, how are you going to collect commission? Are you going to wait till you fund them all the way and collect one big lump sum, or are you going to collect as you can fund them and get approvals in, right? So all these different things you need to document so that when you hire for these roles, it's easy to train them, right? And here are some examples here to give you like very, very simple, actionable steps. Here are some examples. So when it comes to lead generation, you want to document where your leads come from. Your team should know what are your main marketing strategies. If it's paid ads, if it's organic, if it's affiliates, let them know what qualifies as a real lead. Once you start getting really good at marketing, you're going to get a bunch of lead flow, but you want to keep an eye on the prize and focus on people that are actually fundable, right? How fast can they be contacted? That's going to be a very, very important one. Number 2, for the sales process, like we talked about before, the sales sales call structure. So understand the difference between a 0% call and an alternative lending call, qualifications, how to qualify a client properly, handling common objections, and then how to close, right? I know it sounds very, very ironic, but sometimes you have to show closers, especially if they're new to the funding space, how to actually close. Number 3 is going to be fulfillment, right? So understanding fulfillment, how to fund somebody through traditional funding, which would be 0% interest credit card stacking, how to fund somebody through alternative lending, understanding revenue-based lending, looking at bank statement, understanding lender criteria, client communication, being able to effectively communicate with clients as you continue to grow, and then commission, how to collect your payment once you fund somebody through traditional lending. All right. So I talked about SOPs a little bit, right? But I really want to like dial in on this because it's going to be very, very important. SOPs are standard operating procedures, and this is basically you documenting your business. You should be able to have a book, a resource, whether it's AI, a database of some sort of all the processes in your business. Right? You need to document that now, right? As you're building, even before you're ready to hire employees, there's certain things that you do every day in your business that you should be recording and put into a database to be able to deliver to someone you hire, which can help train that person, right? So SOPs create freedom. Hiring just to hire just puts you in a burner seat to be able to always be at that new employee's request, right? So anytime they need something, they're going to hit you up, which now makes you less effective in your business. So you want to understand this. Clarity builds consistency. Consistency leads to scale, right? Once you have SOPs and you document exactly what you want that employee to do, it creates clarity in the business. Once you have clarity, they get good at their job. They get consistent because they have resources, guides, tutorial videos to look at for certain things so they don't bother you and knock you off your pivot. Once you get a team of good people that are all working in the right direction, doing what needs to be done, then you can scale what you currently have. So now we're going to go over this, right? How this business actually makes money, right? A lot of people need to understand first and foremost how funding companies are actually operated, what makes money in this business. So we're going to go over what you sell, what you make, and why it works. So here are the core services of any funding company. Well, not any funding company, of my funding company, what I teach and what I recommend everyone out there to actually offer and do, right? Most people offer one or the other. I'm a big proponent of offering both in your funding company. Why? Because traditional is usually going to be credit based. So those that have bad credit, you can't help, right? And if you just offer that, you turn down a lot of qualified leads in the alternative lending space. And if you only focus on alternative lending, you're only looking for, I would say, more established business owners. So you turn away startups, people that have maybe good credit and no revenue that you can 1,000% credit card stack and still make decent commission off of, right? So I recommend offering both, and I'm gonna kind of go through both. So traditional lending is essentially going through traditional banks. So your local credit unions, national banks, regional banks. It's going to be more so credit based. Ideally, you want your client to have a 700 plus credit score, an established 700, right? Plus, the funding range when it comes down to traditional is around 50 and usually capped at 150K, right? That's usually a good sweet spot when it comes down to it. The beauty about traditional funding is you don't necessarily need proof of income, right? It's not really needed because it's going to be credit based. Having proof of income, right, can definitely help when it comes down to it. So if you have good credit and you combine it with business revenue, you now have more funding products unlocked for you. Average commission on these deals are usually 10% of the total amount funded. So if you get somebody 50,000, that's 5K in commission. And the average deal size, I would say, is anywhere from 30 to 50K. Can you get a ton of people over 100,000 plus in funding? 100% you can, but that's not realistic for most. Average deal size is around a 30 to 50K range, unless you're dealing with clients that have amazing credit profiles, right? Alternative lending is, like I mentioned before, it's going to be revenue based. So it's going to be more so based off of the revenue in your business, and it's catered to more established business owners. The client profile, when it comes there, they can have a minimum 500 credit score. However, they must be generating at minimum $8,000 a month in business revenue, right? That revenue needs to be going through a business bank account, not a personal account or anything like that. Funding range can go up to, I would say, about $1 million. Commission could be anywhere from 6 to 15 points or 6 to 15%. And the beauty about this business model is the funds are actually paid directly from the lender, so you don't have to charge a client anything. These are faster funding cycles, so realistically, you can get somebody funded in as little as 24 hours. And then you have renewals, which is a great part of this business, right? So with renewals, a lot of the offers and funding products in the alternative lending space are short-term lending products. So anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8, the longest terms are usually 18 months. Once those terms are up, you have an opportunity to renew that client for more capital and make more money off of that as well. So that's one way to build, I would say, residual income inside of the funding business, right? So as we continue on, here's some additional services I recommend adding into the funding business once you're really good at, let's say, traditional and alternative. A credit repair can be a great downsell. Everybody wants money, but everybody doesn't qualify for it. In the alternative lending space, offering credit repair can actually help you close more revenue-based products like an MCA. Somebody may not be able to get a traditional rate for a funding product due to their credit. But if you say, hey, I have money for you now, and what we can do later on is help fix your credit to get a better rate later on, that could definitely be a great I would say, offer to help close more MCA deals. Trade lines as well, and then aged or shell corporations. Those are the same thing. Those are older businesses that you can upsell to your clients to help them maximize more funding if they have a high risk or they have a young business, right? So moving forward, metrics you want to track inside of the funding space, right? So these are some metrics that I would recommend you guys to track. All right. So now we're going to talk about things you should be tracking in your business. Understand, if you do not track data, you do not know what to do to actually grow the business. It's going to be very important, and it's mandatory for everyone to do if you're trying to scale and grow your business and make more money, right? So first thing you want to track is leads, right? How many leads are you generating on a weekly, monthly basis, right? Even daily basis. Book calls. How many of those leads actually convert over to book calls, sales calls, opportunities for your sales reps? Show up rate, right? How many of those leads actually show up to their book calls if you're scheduling calls? Close rate. Out of the people that show up, how many of them do you actually close on your funding offer or funding services? Contact rate, basically how fast can your setters, openers contact leads that opt in, that are qualified, that may not book a call? Average commission per deal, basically what's the average commission you earn per deal? This is more so in the alternative lending space. Average funding amount, right? What's the average somebody typically gets when you fund them? That's going to be very, very good as well. That can tell you basically how much you're naturally probably on average going to make after funding somebody. Revenue, overall revenue in the business, and then net profit. That'll be take home after expenses, what you actually take home once you actually pay out expenses for the month, right? So this is all of these you need to make sure you're tracking, because all of these can help you not only hire the right people, but also identify the constraints and what you need to work on to actually build your business. Second thing, this is a little bit more advanced, but still very valuable that I want to talk about. It'll be LTV to CAC, and this works in really any business, right? LTV is lifetime value. So as we get leads, how valuable are they? How much are they worth in a lifetime span, right? If you fund somebody $3,000 and you made $3,000 in commission off of them twice, they now have a $6,000 lifetime value. For CAC, that'll be cost to acquire. How much did you spend to actually generate that lead, to acquire that lead, right? When you understand these two, this is the perfect formula to understand if you want to make more money, what you need to do. And here's a great example. If your average customer pays you $3,000 over their lifetime, let's say you get a client, you get them funded $30,000, you made $3,000 commission, right? And it costs you $1,000 in ads, sales calls, or whatever to acquire that client. You have a 3-to-1 LTV to CAC, meaning that for every $1,000 you spend, you acquire or you make $3,000 in commission. That's your average, let's say, commission on funding deals. So with this information, if you wanted to make, let's say, $6,000, all you would have to do is look at your LTV to CAC, and it would tell you to spend more. So if you wanted to make $6,000, you would spend $2,000. You would just double your ad spend to then generate another lead that's going to pay you out $3,000 in commission. So understanding LTV to CAC can really help when it comes to tracking data and understanding exactly how you can grow a business and identifying what actually grows the business. So moving forward, when building a funding team, right, there's certain roles that you want to hire for. So we're going to go over roles to hire for in marketing, sales, and operation. So first and foremost, I want to make this very, very clear, because a lot of people will gas you up and say, oh, hire this person, hire that person. I'm a very, very transparent person. So I want to give you the honest truth. As a CEO, the highest leverage activities you have are marketing and sales. You should not just be outsourcing that to everybody because you don't feel like doing it, right? If you outsource them too early, you're giving away the only leverage to actually grow the business. Understand, the only way that any business makes money is due to marketing, being able to generate leads, and sales, being able to sell stuff, being able to close leads. So you want to be very, 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 very careful on outsourcing these things, because like I mentioned before, outsourcing or hiring the wrong people to fulfill these things can make or break your business. You always want to ask yourself before hiring, can I do this myself? Why? Because when you control marketing, you basically control how much money you can make. Just being honest. If you understand how to generate leads, you're naturally going to be able to control the revenue you can bring into the business, right? If you understand how to sell, your closing rates is naturally going to be higher than your sales rate when it comes down to it. So you don't just want to just outsource these roles to any and everybody. Only do it when it makes sense to, and that somebody is proven to be way better and have a way better skill at these things than you do, right? So moving forward, like I mentioned, going over the funding team roles. Here is the marketing roadmap. So here are the actual positions you want to look for hiring for your marketing team. First and foremost, I would say a content operator. Let's say you're building a personal brand or you're personal branding your funding company. This is not for somebody that's more so has a corporate identity with their funding company, but if you're somebody that's a solo broker and you personal brand yourself through content, this is a great hire, right? A content operator clips, edit, schedules, and posts short and long form content for you. That way you can focus on other money making activities. You can hire somebody overseas for easily, let's say, $600 to $1,200 a month. US, you're looking at around $1,500 to $3,000 a month for that role. Number two would be a media buyer, right? A media buyer is someone that runs your paid ads on platforms like Meta, Google, or LinkedIn. Overseas, you can find somebody, let's say, around $500 to $2,500 a month. In the US, you're looking at around $2,000 to $6,000 a month on the higher end for a media buyer. Me personally, I recommend using US-based It's when it comes to media buyers. Next, we want to go to an outreach coordinator. I'm gonna go down to the bottom here. Outreach coordinators are hidden gems that a lot of people don't really know about, but they are game changers, right? Outreach coordinator, their specific role is to develop new relationships with bankers and lenders. So if you're a funding company and you're having trouble with fulfillment, maybe getting more bankers added on with different banks, building different relationships, and getting signed on with different lenders in the alternative lending space can really help you. You can find somebody overseas to do that for $500 to, I would say, $1,200 a month, or on the U.S. side, somebody between $1,500 to $3,000 a month is a good price range, right? For a marketing director, this is like when you're doing, let's say, easily $100K a month, $80K a month. This is when you want to look into getting a marketing director. They build, measure, and improve marketing that brings in qualified leads at a predictable cost. So they basically take over all marketing for you so that you can focus on other things to grow the business, right? Overseas, you can find somebody between $1,500 to $2,500. In the U.S., you're looking more so around $4,000 to $10,000 a month when it comes down to it. All right, moving on to sales, guys. Moving on to sales. When it comes down to it, when it comes to hiring people on your sales team, you first want to look at setters or openers, right? Setters or openers, these are your, I would say, your first level entry reps when it comes down to it. When somebody opts in, this is who's calling them, right? An opener. Or if you're doing, let's say, DMs or different things like that, we call them a setter in the online space, right? So the role of a setter is basically to contact qualified lead within 3 to 5 minutes once they apply on your website or opt in on your funnel. They should be able to qualify leads correctly and only book qualified calls, right? Or collect documentation up front, whether that's 4 months of bank statements or their credit report. They should only book quality calls. If somebody, let's say, gets through because they lied on an application, go ahead and cancel that call, right? Target, they should be booking, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 5 book calls a day, which will lead to about 200 to 270 dials a day if you're in the alternative financing space and you have people cold calling, right? Compensation can vary based on the broker shop that you're at, right? So you can give them base pay per show or per close bonus when it comes down to it. All of that can be structured how you like it. Next, we'll go to closers, right? When it comes to closers, I recommend hiring once you're at that 30 to 60K a month range. Why? Because salespeople will leave if they do not have deal flow and you're not giving them opportunities to make money. So I'm at 30 to 60K a month. You know, at minimum, they're going to be making anywhere from 3 to 6K a month. So that's when I recommend hiring a sales rep because they usually work off of 10% commission for the most part. Lead flow exceeds your calendar. You cannot take sales calls, so you want to hire out when it comes to that. For, I would say, sales reps, anywhere from 20 to 40% close rates, really good close rate when it comes down to it. And compensation, you can look at commission based or optional based once they're approving a sales rep, and you want to hire those top tier salespeople in your company, right? Sales manager. So once you're doing anywhere from 80 to 100K a month plus, you want to look into getting a sales manager, right? This is after you have a few closers. You want to hire somebody that can basically make sure they're saying the right things on the phone, they're on the dollar, and they basically run your sales team, right? KPIs can be team close rate, revenue per lead, and follow-up recovery. And incentivizing them is based off of the performance of the sales team and also giving them a base salary as well, right? So moving on to operations. Operations is going to be another big one when it comes down to it. With operations, first and foremost, we're going to talk about hiring a client success manager, a CSM. This role specifically is in charge of collecting and onboarding clients, collecting their documents, figuring out upsell opportunity when needed, and then updating clients accordingly with funding process, right? Next, we're going to talk about an affiliate manager. A lot of people overlook this role, but this is a game changer role in your business as well. Hiring affiliate managers that manage and bring in affiliate partnerships can be a game changer. Bringing in the right partners for your affiliate program can 100% make you more money. So this is a role I highly recommend to hire on, right? They also can set the right expectations with affiliates to bring you qualified leads. They can host webinars monthly, bi-weekly to be able to train affiliates on how to send you leads and finding the right leads and how to basically explain the funding products you offer. So that's a great role right there. Next, we're going to go over your funding coordinator or underwriter, right? Their task would be submitting applications to lenders in the alternative lending space, banker introductions, client updates as well, and building funding sequences in the traditional space, right? Typically, you want your funding coordinators, depending on what type of deals, I would say 20 to 30 a month. That's if you're doing traditional and alternative as well, right? Then when you are really scaling, let's say 100K a month or more, you want to look into hiring an operations manager, right? When it makes sense to, and they will manage basically your operations department, making sure everything in the business is running how it should be, right? What happens is you ideally free up more time that allows you to focus on applying and allocating more resources to build the business. So as we continue to go on, you want to hire based on constraints like I talked about in the beginning of the presentation. You don't just want to hire because you think, oh, I want to hire people, right? The first hire isn't universal, so many people will give you a guideline on what revenue state should you hire this person, that person, and I'm kind of against that, right? I'm still going to give you guys what you asked for, but I'm kind of against it because every business is different, right? I may be great at marketing, so I don't need to jump and hire somebody that can do marketing for me, but you may be somebody that's not great at marketing, so maybe that's a first hire for you. So understanding what's the bottleneck in your business will show you who you need to hire first, right? Hiring all depends on what you're bad at and what's currently stopping the business from growing. And that's going to be different for every business, right? So even though I'm going to give you, I would say, a proven framework of certain revenue goals to hit and who should you hire, always look at your business and figure out what works best for you and which hire will actually move the business for your business, right? So as we go on to give you guys some examples of what that looks like. If leads are the bottleneck, you want to hire for marketing or outreach, right? So if you struggle with marketing, you want to hire somebody in marketing or outreach to bring in more leads. If deals are falling through, you want to hire for sales, right? If you're somebody that, not able to contact people in a short amount of time, speed the lead like I talked about earlier, or close deals, or you have too many leads and you cannot take all sales calls, you want to hire a sales team or sales in general. If funding is slow or messy, let's say you're not very structured in the fulfillment spot, not really getting the approvals you want, you need to hire somebody for fulfillment, right? The rule is simple. The business tells you who to hire next, like I talked about earlier. And here's a proven framework just to give it to you guys, because I know people are still want to ask and they want some type of guideline to go off of. But before I kind of go through this, like I mentioned before, everybody's business is different. So hiring is going to be based off of what you need in your business at that time. So anywhere from 10K to 20K a month, you want to hire a setter, I would say a virtual assistant setter, 20 to 40K a funding coordinator, 40 to 60 a closer, 60 to 80 a CSM or second coordinator, 80 to 100K sales manager, and 100K plus, you can look into hiring an operations manager when it comes down to it. So when training your team, each role is going to take different type of training, and I'm gonna quickly go through this as well, right? So for your setters and openers, you want to train them on what qualifies, what doesn't. You can provide them with scripts. I'm not a really big script person, to be honest with you, but I know a lot of people in the space that are doing very well provide their setters and openers with scripts, so you can as well. You want to help them with initial objection handling. They don't have to be as great as your sales reps. Ideally, we want them to be, right? But they just need to be able to handle objections and understanding the products that you offer, right? As they continue to understand the products and what you offer and how they help business owners, they'll be able to, handle objection handling a little bit better. For your closers, you want to train them on qualifications, presenting the deals, the offers to clients. You can provide them with scripts, objection handling, following up, and then understanding the product as well. For coordinators, they need to be very good at understanding the funding process for both traditional and alternative lender criteria, especially in the alternative lending space. What deals should be submitted to what lender and what fashion. And really understanding credit and business revenue, right? So they need to have a very great understanding with credit if you're going to be offering traditional funding, understanding comparables, what banks are looking for, and putting clients in the best possible position to maximize the amount of funding. And for business revenue, right, they need to be good at looking at bank statements and understanding different industries and cash flow constraints, because that's exactly what underwriters are going to look at in the alternative lending space. Client success managers, they need to be great at onboarding, client communication, and identifying upsell opportunities to help bring more money to the business, right? So now we're going to talk about hiring a team. We went over all the qualifications, everything. Now we're going to talk about hiring a team and actually building a business. So when it comes to VAs, I know people are going to ask about VAs, right? There's certain platforms that I recommend you guys to use to hire on, and then I'm going to give you the top countries to outsource VAs for the funding business specifically, guys. So VAs, if you don't know, are overseas workers. They're virtual assistants. The reason why VAs can be valuable, especially in the beginning, they're a way to be able to hire employees at a very, very budget cost, low cost, right? You can hire a good VA, let's say for $850 to $1,000 a month. That same role for a US based worker will probably be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a month, right? So understand that hiring a VA in the beginning can help you to be able to get help at an affordable pace, but also be able to still be able to grow the business. Do I recommend having a team full of VAs? No, I do not. Eventually, we want to hire A players because A players will help grow the business. But in the beginning stages, there's nothing wrong with hiring VAs. I would say these platforms, websites I recommend looking at VAs for are onlinejobs.ph, that'll be in the Philippines, Upwork, Get Latin Jobs, Workana, or internal referrals. If you've hired a few people and they're good workers and you trust their word, just ask them if they know anybody else that are just looking for a job that maybe be able to help out with your business, right? The top countries I recommend hiring from would be Latin America, Eastern Europe, the Philippines, and India and Pakistan. And this is actually in order, right? And I'll explain. With Latin America, they're closer to US-based time zones, so they're not going to be too far off based on where you're at in America, right? And they speak the way we speak. Most people don't have an issue with a Hispanic accent or anything like that, so they're like the most closely accustomed to American culture. Eastern Europe is pretty good as well. Their time zone is not as bad. They speak very good as well. Understand the culture a little bit better. Philippines is pretty decent. Philippines, I just don't like their time zone. They're usually, I can't remember, I think, 12 or 18 hours behind us or ahead. Basically, all I know is when it's daytime for us, it's nighttime for them. Just being transparent. They're still very good. You can find some really, really good Philippines workers. But like I said, Latin America would be top of the line. India, Pakistan has pretty decent workers as well. But being in the finance space, I feel like India and Pakistan will be great for maybe admin or back-end services, but not necessarily client-facing roles when it comes down to it, right? Moving on, when it comes to U.S. workers, here are some platforms that you want to use to hire. LinkedIn, Indeed, college job fairs is a gem, right? Not necessarily maybe for sales reps or for other things, marketing, admin roles. College job fairs are a way to be able to get great workers at a low cost. ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, or internal referrals as well. And then when hiring, right, for positions, I want to give a comparison of overseas versus the U.S., right? When it comes to virtual assistants, I recommend only hiring for these positions: admin work, outreach, scheduling, data tracking, right? Any of these type of roles would be great for virtual assistants. When it comes to U.S., I recommend putting them in these roles. Sales, right, because that's a money-driven role, right, that can directly make more money for the business. Marketing as well. Management and any client-facing roles, I recommend hiring a U.S.-based employee for those roles as well. And then last but not least, we're about to wrap this thing up here. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if this was helpful, if you enjoyed it. Comment for part 2 and I'll make a part 2. Or if you want me to go deeper into a different topic similar to how I did here, just comment the topic below this video. Like always, I do a free funding workshop. The link will be in the description if you guys want to sign up for that. During those workshops, I show you how to start, grow, and scale your own funding company, whether you're just getting started or you're already in it. We go over sales, marketing, and fulfillment, and different things like that. In addition, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram, stead.waiters. As you can see, I drop a lot of game when it comes to funding, entrepreneurship, lifestyle, different things there. Hopefully this was valuable for you. I had a great time putting this together. And really my goal with this is to bring more people up and, decrease the information gap to get more people to their ideal life, their ideal goal. One thing my mentor told me that stuck to me is the sooner you get to your dream life, the longer you get to enjoy it. So I want to help more people get to their dream life and their goals. Hopefully you enjoy it. See you later. Peace.
So that's the complete team building roadmap to scale your funding company past 100K per month. Now you have everything you need to know about when to hire, what roles to bring on, and how to structure compensation. But here's the thing. Having a great team is only one piece of the puzzle, because if you don't have the fundamentals in place first, the lender relationships, the lead generation systems, the sales process, the fulfillment infrastructure, then hiring a team is going to amplify your problems instead of solving them. That's why I made a full-length free course that walks you through how to build a funding business from scratch, step by step, so you have the foundation to actually scale with a team. And if you want to work with me directly to build your funding company and get access to our lender network, CRM, contracts, and ongoing support, click the first link in the description to apply. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.